Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is Bluefin Design and I'm Nikhil. And in this video, we are going to be talking about personas in your UX project. So if you have been following along, I have actually been sharing a lot of videos about my UX process where I walk you through my design process all the way from research to ideation to design and then again to testing. And previously I've shared videos about different methods for UX research, so I'll leave a link down in the description, so be sure to follow along from the beginning. And as you know, in this process I'm going to be actually working on a project called language translation, and it's a case study that I'm actually developing as we share these videos. So let's get started. In this video, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be talking about personas, and then the next one is going to be about journey maps. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. And also, if you like this video and my design process, please hit that like button. It helps me grow as a channel and motivates me to share more videos with you, and also helps the YouTube algorithm. So feel free to share this video with your network so more people can benefit from the content as well. And so let's get started. So what we're going to cover in this video is really quickly what is a persona, why we should be using personas in our next UX project, what are the different perspectives of a persona, and then steps to create a persona successfully, and then what you should be including in a persona. So let's begin with what actually a persona is. So persona is basically a fictional character that you create based on your research to represent different user types. So as it says, like they're not actual users, they're fictional characters. So when you do your user research, you come across different user types, and then there should be a way where you should be able to categorize, oh, this user fits is this particular profile. So that profile is nothing but a persona. uh, how that persona helps you is basically they help understand users needs, experiences, pain points, motivations, and goals, so you can identify what they are looking for, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Also, personas can guide your design or ideation process. So uh, with all the research that you've done, and then you've categorized the users in different personas, now that personas can help you, can guide your design process. The next thing I want to talk about is why we should be using personas, and then the answer is like the most important answer is like you'll be able to answer that question is who are you designing for. So with all the research that you've done, that helps you identify who you are actually designing for, who is the user, who is going to use your product. Personas also help you build empathy with the end users and understand their experiences and their perspectives, as I mentioned earlier. So it's also very important for us as designers to realize that we are not designing obviously for ourselves, but we are designing for the end users. And it's important to walk in their shoes. So personas will help you do that. They provide a direction to make design decisions and to shape your design strategy. And as I mentioned earlier, like we are designing for our users, so the personas, like having guided by those personas, will definitely help you design better products. Personas also help communicate your research findings to the different stakeholders within your team. So for example, with all the research that you've done and the answers to the questions that you've gotten from that research, you will be able to communicate all of those research findings and kind of portray those results in the form of personas. Let's talk about 4 perspectives of personas. So to start with, one of the first persona perspective is a goal directed persona. So with this persona, what you can do is you can focus on what your user wants from your product. So the entire direction or the design direction will be focused on what your user wants from your product. They can also help you examine the process and workflow of your target user. So this kind of like when you structure your persona in this way, they are called goal directed personas. The next one is role based personas. So these personas are basically built with massively data driven research, for example, quantitative and qualitative research. If in your research, like the participants were there was a large user base in your research, for example surveys or focus groups or interviews, and you have actually collected massive data about your users, you can build a role based persona from that research. And this actually focuses on the user's role within their organization. So there may be like different roles for your user who is going to use your product. And then this persona is going to focus on the user's role in their organization. So the next persona type or a perspective is an engaging persona. So as the word says, this is actually rooted in the ability of stories or experiences of the users. So this persona actually focuses on creating a realistic description of the target user based on their emotions and background. So I can imagine like if you have done a lot of qualitative research and you've actually deep dived in the behavioral aspect of your user, those behavioral research will actually help you build an engaging persona. The last one is a fictional persona. And so this is kind of like it's very different from the first three perspectives of a persona, because this one emerges from the experiences of the UX design team while making many assumptions. And as we make any assumptions, we actually should remember that these can be deeply flawed because they're not backed by any research. They're just based on the assumptions of the design team themselves, and that's why they should not guide your design decisions blindly. So this persona, you should be careful while making design decisions based on this persona. So I hope these four perspectives kind of gave some idea into creating different types of personas and identifying them for you while making those design decisions. If you have any questions, just comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear like how you're using your personas in your next UX project. So with that, let's talk about the steps to creating successful personas. So the first step is obviously research, to collect as much information about your users as possible by using different UX research methods. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're looking to learn about different UX research methods, I've created an entire playlist. So the link is down in the description. The next step is to identify the behavioral patterns from your research information. And doing this step will actually take you one step closer to creating that successful persona in your head. And so the next step is actually based on those patterns from your research, you will create and prioritize your personas. The next step would be then to find those interaction scenarios from your personas as they kind of connect to your project or your product. The next and the last step is actually when you prioritize your personas, the last step is to share that findings in the form of personas. So all the research that you've done, you kind of share that finding with your team and the stakeholders in your organization. So I hope that's clear. The next step is what you should be actually including in a persona. Actually, let me rephrase that. So, because when you share that findings with the different stakeholders, what information that you include will make a compelling case for a successful persona. So if you think about that in this way, I think that will make more sense. So for example, give your fictional character, give your persona a name and a photo, so that it's actually visually helpful to kind of put a face to the name. And also include some of the demographic information, for example, the age, the gender, some family information, how much money they make, can be important depending on the project that you're doing, but do make sure that you mention their goals and their needs in the persona, because what goals and needs basically do is they help you identify what your target user wants to achieve. It may not be necessarily the goal from your product, but what they want to achieve, what their aspirations are, what their motivations are. So a goal is basically motivation with a clear and a concise action plan. The next thing to include in personas is the pain points or some of the frustrations. So if your target user, while you're in doing your research, they may have mentioned that while using this XYZ product, they are actually frustrated and not able to accomplish their goals. That may actually be a good point for a pain point. They want to achieve this step, but then they're not able to do so, and they'd like an alternate solution for that problem. The next step to include is the behaviors of the user. What are some of those characteristics that actually differentiate your user from a different user? So different personas that you create, I think they'll have their own traits, their own characteristics that define them. So I think diving just a little bit more and giving some life to that fictional character will help communicate the goals and the motivations better. And lastly, what are some of their motivations? Like, what motivates them to do that task that your product actually aims to achieve? Some of the other items that you may or may not include is, what are the competitive products, like what are your competition products that the users actually use or have been using in the past. So with that, I think that's the end of this video. I hope this video was helpful. And if you have any comments or if you have any feedback or questions, feel free to comment down below. I'd be happy to hear from you. Also, if you want to actually book a one-on-one call with me, I've actually made that very easy. There's a link down in the description that you can click and book a time, 30-minute call or a 60-minute call about your capstone project, your next UX project, or just about anything about UX research or design in general. So I'd look forward to hear from you. Do make sure to subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be sharing a lot more videos in the future. And share this video with your network, with your classmates, with your friends. Again, thank you so much for watching.